broken by the things that break the heart of Jesus. He had fallen in love with Jesus. Jesus had come in, changed the way he related to people, the way he saw people. The Spirit had given him an energy that enabled him to reach out to people. And as he reached out on that muddy morning, he felt their suffering. He felt their pain. And he would never be the same again. On the streets of Philadelphia, today, as every day this summer, 250 young men and women just like you who work with me are out there. They work with little kids in the slums all morning. In the afternoon, they do one-on-one relational stuff. In the evenings, they work with high school kids. Every single day this summer, they will be working with 3,000 children who are the throwaway children. Strange as this may sound to you, there is no joy or aliveness that measures the ecstasy that comes from caring for people who hurt. How do you think Mother Teresa gets up in the morning? Do you think she gets up and says, well, here it goes, another lousy day on the streets of Calcutta? Or does Mother Teresa bounce out of bed, expecting to be surprised by joy? She says this: every time I look into the eyes of someone dying in the gutters of Calcutta, I have this eerie awareness that Jesus is staring back at me. And you're right, Mother Teresa. It is Jesus. For it was Jesus who said, whatever you do to the least of these, my brothers and sisters, you do to me. You say, hey, what are you asking me to be? One of those person that goes into full-time Christian service? Yes, I am. You say, I'm going to be a teacher. Of course you ought to be a teacher. We run a little school in Philadelphia. It's a school that only takes kids that the Philadelphia school system says are hopeless. We take the throwaway ones. They're called Title I kids, which means that the school system of Philadelphia, which is one of the worst in the country, says we can't even have these kids in class. We have 130 of them. We say to the public school system, give us the stones which the builders reject, and out of them we'll build you a kingdom. And we have this school, and you know what our problem is? We have a hard time getting teachers. Oh, there are plenty of kids that come out of covenant churches that become teachers, but they all want to teach in the suburbs, where the pay is good, and where the children are polite, and where you get parental support. We don't have enough Star Trekkies around here. People who will boldly go where? Oh, you are needed. Jesus came into the world not only to deliver you from sin and to forget that you ever sinned in the first place, but he did all of that in order to make you capable of loving yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else. And loving other people infinitely and intensely in his name is what this gospel is all about. You say, is it really that much fun? It's pain, it's suffering, but it's fun. I get to speak in a lot of places. And I had to go and speak in Honolulu. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning if you're from Philadelphia because of the time difference, and I woke up. And I was hungry. And my flesh cried out. And I yelled, down flesh, down, down, down. But the flesh conquered, and I went looking for food at 3 o'clock in the morning. I went up a side street in Honolulu and found a greasy spoon. There were no booths. There was just a row of stools. I sat down. I didn't touch the menu. It was a plastic menu. And stuff had piled up on it. And I knew that if I opened the menu, something extraterrestrial would have crawled out. I just sat there. The fat guy behind the counter, wearing a greasy apron and unshaved, fat guy. Came over, pulled out the cigarette, put it down, and said, "What do you want?" I said, "A cup of coffee and a donut." He poured the coffee, and then he did this. And he grabbed the donut. People of God, you know and I know that in the back room, donuts get dropped on the floor and kicked around in the dirt. When it's out front, and you can see it, I want the guy to use tongs and wax paper. And so there I am, 3:30 in the morning, drinking my coffee and eating my dirty donut. When in to the diner comes about 8 or 9 prostitutes. And it was a small place. And they sat on either side of me. And I wanted to disappear. And the one right next to me said a lot of things, but among the things she said was, "Tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be 39. Her friend says, "So what do you want me to do? Throw a birthday party for you? So you're going to be 39. Big deal. You want us to sing happy birthday and give you a cake?" This woman said, "I don't expect anything. I've never had a birthday party in my whole life. I don't expect one now." And I made my decision to do the loving thing. And I waited until they left. And I called Harry over. I said, "Do they come in here every night?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "The one right next to me." He said, "Agnes." I said, "Yeah." "Tomorrow's her birthday," I said. "What do you say, Harry? You and I throw a birthday party for her here, right here, tomorrow night." He said, "Terrific. Absolutely terrific." He called his wife, Jan. "Jan, come on out here. I want you to meet this guy. He wants to throw a birthday party for Agnes." I said, "Look, if it's okay, I'd like to decorate the place. Ribbons, balloons. Can I do that?" He said, Sure, decorate it to your heart's content." I said, "I'm going to bring a cake, a birthday cake." Harry said, "Oh no, the cake's my thing." Oh, geez, you know. The next day I went out shopping. I bought some crepe paper, bought some ribbons, I bought some balloons. I was there at 2:30 in the morning, and I decorated that place from one end to the other. Jan, who did the cooking, got the word out on the streets. Because by 3:15, every prostitute in Honolulu was in this place. It was wall-to-wall prostitutes. And me! 3:30 in the morning, right on the dot. Agnes and her friend came through the door, and as they did, I had everybody set, everybody ready. And as they came through the door, we all yelled, "Happy birthday, Agnes!" and went bananas. I have never seen a person so stunned, so shocked in my life. Tears started running down her cheeks. Her knees buckled. Her friend had to get her over and sit her down on the stool. We brought out the cake, and everybody started singing, "Happy birthday to you." And as they brought the cake over to this battered, beaten prostitute, we finished the song. And Harry just stood there as she stared at the cake. He yelled, "Blow out the candles, Agnes! Come on, blow out the candles!" She tried, but she couldn't, so he blew out the candles. He gave her the knife and said, "Cut the cake! Come on, cut the cake, Agnes!" For a long moment she sat there. And then she said, "Harry, I don't want to cut the cake. Is that okay?" She turned to me and she said, "Is that okay?" I said, "Yeah." She picked up the cake and said, "What I want to do is go home. I live just 2 doors down. I want to take the cake home and show it to my mother. Could I do that?" "I promise," she said to me. "I promise you, mister, I'll be right back." I said, "Sure." And she walked through the group and out the door, and as the door slowly closed, there was an awkward, dead silence. I didn't know what to do. So I said, "What do you say we pray?" Seems weird looking back on it now. A sociologist leading a prayer meeting with a bunch of prostitutes at 3:30 in the morning in a diner in Honolulu, but it seemed like the right thing.